Hey guys, this is more or less a video companion to a trio of WordPress blogs that I posted over the summer regarding American politics. Before I continue, I'm going to preface this in saying I highly recommend checking the links in the video description for this and just checking out those blogs, because if you haven't read those blog posts, much of what I'm about to say isn't going to make a whole lot of sense to you. The other one I want to say now that I want to make sure to say this in advance is this video is definitely not safe for work or for young children due to profanity that may or may not be used throughout this video. It's American politics, so yeah, things might get a little bit testy. So I'm just pretty much gonna harken back to a comment that I've made in two of my videos now, since they're pretty much dated, and I believe it was. One was a video in which I talked about the media's influence in America, and the other one was about America's obsession with violence and death. In both of those videos, I endorsed Bernie Sanders. Well, as we all know by now, Bernie Sanders conceded in July, and not only endorsed Hillary Clinton, but gave all of his electoral votes to Hillary Clinton at the Democratic National Convention. The main question on the minds of many now former Bernie supporters was, the fuck does that mean for us? Like, we backed you, Bernie Sanders, so that we could avoid the situation, the outcome. You were supposed to be with us. Well, the thing most Sanders supporters really didn't pay attention to that they should have was what he said very early on in his campaign. He said, and I quote, if Hillary Clinton becomes the Democratic nominee, I will support her. I'm paraphrasing a bit here, but he literally said if Hillary Clinton becomes the Democratic nominee, he will support her. So his actions since the DNC should become as a surprise to no one. Like it or not, and this is why most people like him, Bernie is a man of his word. And he doesn't do the whole dancing around and shit like that so many of us are used to with most politicians. He's very straightforward in a lot of sense. He gives you the truth. He gives a lot of truth, whether you like it or not. I mean, Bernie's most hardened followers pissed off at him? Of course. Me personally, I wasn't as much, because I mean, most of the Sanders followers knew that it was a long shot from the beginning anyway, and corporate media's been doing a pretty great job in ignoring this. But Donald Trump was right in both national debates that he did with Hillary Clinton, when he said that the DNC pretty much went out of its way to ensure Bernie Sanders never had a chance. And that's as much as the media and the Democrats are going out of the way to discredit anything Trump says, mostly because of what happened the weekend before the second debate, more than ever. That is the one consistent truth that is irrefutable. We have WikiLeaks and Anonymous to thank for ensuring that the public is well aware that the Dems have been running a corrupt campaign from the very beginning, just to ensure that the White House remains blue for the next 4 years. Well, brah fucking oh, you guys are gonna get 4 more years. One thing that I figure I might as well, since I'm on this, cool, it's right in front of me. Something that I did that I mentioned that I would do over the summer was, before this election period started, before November 8th, I would leave the Democratic Party. This letter I got from Boston City Hall confirms that I am no longer a part of the Democratic Party. I am now unaffiliated. Which, that piece of paper will come in very handy when and if I decide to get into politics in terms of running myself as well. It goes without saying that Hillary Clinton will be the 45th President of the United States. I'd say that stunt, which was conveniently tied, involving Trump from a week and a half ago, was pretty convenient. But even without that, let's be honest, dues being paid by the Clinton campaign, by the Clintons, Bill and Hillary Clinton, they got the money to do that kind of shit. for him to run against her. I mean, don't you think you find it very interesting how after the first debate, when the final question was, if your opponent becomes the next president, will you support them? Hillary Clinton didn't really dance around answering that question. Trump just basically said, "Sure, I have no problem supporting her." That was a wink, more or less, for you to know that there was a deal going on between Donald Trump and the Clintons, more or less. I mean, what's kind of sad in a lot of ways is the media is going out of its way to label folks like myself, whether they were Bernie supporters, Trump supporters, or third-party candidate supporters, or whatever, as conspiracy theorists, when the hard evidence exists to back up what we've been saying from the very beginning. Uh, Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Make no mistake, as much as those who are anti-Hillary may not like to hear this, she will be the 45th president of the United States. At the same time, the question to be asked is, what about 2020? That is the next election coming up, and that is something that needs to be prepared for now, while the Democrats are so fixated on the 2016 election. I mean, just thinking about getting a candidate that will be able to run against her, someone that's competent, someone that's someone that isn't close to the Clintons, preferably as well. Someone new. I mean, it could be someone new to the political arena, or it could be a virtual unknown. I mean, as much as people may think otherwise, Donald Trump was an X factor. I mean, the Clintons were pretty smart in getting him and paying him who knows how much amount of money. I mean, let's be honest, the man's a businessman. But he is also a reality TV star as well. It's pretty much it for him. He probably, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he's doing it for free. But clearly, someone or an organization put him up to run, quote unquote, against Hillary Clinton. A lot of people have been commenting about the fact that since Donald Trump started running for president, a lot of the racists and bigots started coming out of hiding, coming out and shouting about the whole, all the shit like fuck the queers, fuck the black people and all that shit, fuck immigrants, fuck everybody but us. All that shit's been going on for much longer than Donald Trump's been in the public eye. I mean, the largest wave of them people came out after Barack Obama became the 44th president. So let's not pretend this is a recent or new phenomena. No, not at all. I mean, there's a saying, I don't know who said it, but there's a saying that's something to the effect of, if there is true evil in this world, it lurks in the hearts of men. And of course, for those of you that read your Bibles, it's very clear. There is no one that is good. So, yeah, everyone is capable. There are choices, but people can choose to be good, or to either do good things or do bad things. But the human heart is inherently wicked. I remember. I'm pretty sure I'm paraphrasing. That was another paraphrasing of a quote I just butchered. But anyway, moving on. So pretty much, what I will say for now is, while it's pretty obvious that the next president was decided a long ass time ago, I'm still voting third party. I'm still voting for third party on November 8th. That was my plan B from the beginning. Should Bernie Sanders not get the nomination? I mean, unlike a lot of other folks that jumped ship from the very beginning and all that, I followed to the end. I mean, of course, I've been following Gary Johnson and Jill Stein very closely while I was still a Bernie Sanders supporter. But at the same time, I had a lot of things to look at. I mean, I don't socially vote. I don't follow corporate media's a whole backing of indoor candidates and all that other bullshit they like to do. I mean, we already know that Fox News is the Grand Old Party slash GOP's mouthpiece, and CNN has been officially been nicknamed the Clinton News Network for much of this calendar year and all that. And we already know it's no secret, despite CNN's claims of keeping them honest, that they are the Democrats' network, more or less. So this is basically it's just I mean, I'm laughing right now because I'm thinking of all the people, I mean, and I touched on this in another video. All the people, all the sheeple is the term I'm going to use, that inherently trust that everything that they see on Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, New York Post, LA Times, etc., 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 is 100% factual. Like, oh, it's the media. Why would they lie? Why would they? Well, is that what you truly? Is that what you truly think? Well, I got nothing to say to you. And by the way, no, I'm not drinking alcohol, but it's just very interesting. I mean, as a lot of experts have rightly said, even ESPN Stephen A. Smith is will not touch this election because of how entrenched and how much it's divided this country. And I'm pretty sure a lot of the puppet masters and all the people that set this table are laughing their asses off from behind the scenes, and it's pretty interesting. I mean, if you look at a lot of the stuff that people are saying on social media about Russia and Black Lives Matter movement and police unions and all that other random shit and all that, I mean, two of the biggest things that people are worrying about are definitely going to happen. I'm talking about World War III, number one. I mean, let's be honest. Russia wants it, and whether it wants to admit it or not, America wants it. World War III is going to happen. And number two, this country's divided. I mean, we've kind of known that since 2004 with the shit that the Bush 43 administration pulled with the '04 election, but that's a whole other issue in and of itself. But yeah, I've said this. This has been like pretty much my refrain on my blog for the last couple of months now. But President Obama was the president we needed but didn't deserve. George Bush was a president that we didn't. Bush 43, I should say, was a president that we deserved but didn't need. Well, the president we are getting with the 2016 election will be the president that we deserve, not the one we need. And as it turns out, in this case, we are 100% guaranteed to get a president that will once again fuck up this country in ways that will make 9/11 in the 8 years of Bush 43 look like nothing. I'm gonna just put it like that. And that's the main reason that I said a few minutes ago. People need to start looking to, if you don't like Trump or Clinton, you need to start looking to the 2020 election. If you can't find someone, then throw your hat in the race yourself. If you're a naturalized American citizen, it is. I'd say it's your civic duty to do something like that. And I mean, I already have my own political aspirations, but they're on a more local level. I plan on running for city council, then mayor, and possibly governor ultimately. But I'd say that's 15, maybe 20 minutes from now. I mean, I have some experience working with politics personally. I've worked with a few campaigns, which I really don't want to get into since. But anyway, I have a lot of experience in terms of the nitty gritty. What really goes into running a campaign, and running a good campaign in general. I mean, it's pretty interesting. One thing that I think a lot of people are focused. I mean, the media's been doing a pretty great job of making the people distract from the fact that unlike the 2008 and 2012 elections, neither of these candidates made any sort of either verbal or written agreement to not run negative ads, and that's why they've been tearing each other to shreds. I mean, the only thing that those two debates that we've seen so far have confirmed is both of them candidates are very good at getting under each other's skin. That's pretty much the only thing that's been confirmed. I mean, it really is something else that, I mean, I want to say that I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised because we have the history is there that a presidential election would divide the country so much that it would go to war. Just look at the Civil War, 1865. 1865. Well, I should say 1864. I mean, those who know the history know the story about that, so I'm not going to spend another 5 minutes going over the fact that most of the states were planning to secede if Lincoln won the election, which he did. Civil War was declared, and the rest is history. I mean, there has been rumblings of that kind of shit going on during the 1996, 1996 and 2004 elections as well, when Clinton 42 and Bush 43 were up for re-election, but it just wasn't there. Well, America's in a much different place than it was during those two other points in recent American history. I mean, we've got international and local pressure, and it's like, yeah. As much as I hate to say, I mean, a lot of people like to take shots at Christians, and people like to take shots at Christians say that things are going to get worse before they get better. Well, like it or not, they're not lying. Things are going to get worse before they get better. I mean, the Bible's pretty clear on that. And even if you're not someone that claims any sort of religion of any kind, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, or anything else, it's pretty obvious just using your freaking eyes, just thinking about it. We got another shitstorm incoming, possibly right after the election. I mean, America is holding together by threads at this point, and something's got to give. And regardless of what gives, this country's there's only one logical outcome. Let's just put it like that. Of course, people that say things like that automatically say, "Why would you say something about your country? Like, why do, like, you don't know how good you have it, and all that kind of dumb shit." I'm like, I'm not blind or deaf. I can see what's going on around me. I mean, I'm not allowing myself to get focused on a lot of distractions with the video games and the anime and the movies and the air conditioning and all that other shit. I mean, I actually do pay attention both to what's going on in the world as well as my own philosophical and theological convictions. I mean, I'm not the kind of person that wants to. I'm not the kind of person that's comfortable with being lied to just to be made feel better. That's just not me personally. I'm not really into that. I mean, I have a lot of without going too off topic, I have a lot of hard realities that I have to deal with every day on a daily basis. I mean, life sucks for a lot of people. I mean, I get that there are people that really don't give a fuck about that. I'm not just speaking about me, but about other people other than them. And to you guys, and to people, and if you're one of those people, I can say either fuck you or wake up and smell the coffee. The world isn't just about you. But it's pretty interesting that one of the things that America is known for is its generosity towards a lot of other countries. I mean, if you go point by point, one of the biggest things that the fucking races have is America's tolerance to those that are different. I mean, like I said before, talking about the LGBTQ community, minorities, immigrants. Let's see what else. I mean, technically, Hillary Clinton being the first female president, Barack Obama being the first African American president. I mean, you're talking. Well, I'm like, yeah. I mean, shit. I mean, all them things, the fucking neo-Nazis, Ku Klux Klan, and a lot of other fucking racists and shit like that. It's like, oh, this is just how we are. I'm like, motherfucker, please. That's the choice that you're making to talk like that. I mean, I gave a disclaimer at the beginning of this video that there may be some profanity and all that. And I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get some people don't understand why are you swearing so much in your fucking video. I'm like, hey, at least this time I gave a disclaimer with the video I said, which I tore the shit out of the media. I waited until the end to say whoops. So yeah, um, something else. I mean, I'm not one of them people like. I'm not one of the people that are saying that's. I'm not. I mean, I'm thinking about a lot of people that say like in the weeks and months leading up to every election, and I'm pretty sure you guys know of at least one person that has said, "Man, if my choice doesn't become the next president, I'm getting the fuck out of this country. I'm gonna go to Canada. I'm gonna go to Mexico. I'm gonna go to Europe." I'm like nigga, please, if you want to make change, you got to stay here and put in some fucking work. That's what I mean. Please, I'm like, yeah, I mean, if you want to do that, that's your business. No one gives a fuck if you leave. Now, honestly, there's a shit ton of people at the door in immigration that I want to get in. I mean, we have 10 million illegal immigrants, so I should tell you something. There's a lot of people that would love to have your spot. So if you want to leave, I don't give a fuck. Just go. Don't call it a day. I mean, there's people that leave every day, don't say a word. They just they just take care of their business, say their goodbyes to all their family and friends. It's like, I'm out, and just leave it at that. I mean, you don't have to make a big scene about it. I mean, if you really do feel that way, just go. That's basically it. I mean, I don't really entertain them kinds of conversations with people because I'm like, the fuck are you telling me if you're not gonna actually do it? I mean, you're just wasting breath. I mean, if you're constantly gonna say that, my question after a while is gonna be, why are you still here? Why are you still here if you saying you're gonna leave this country? Please, I ain't got time for that shit. Get out of here. I mean, it's just something else. I mean, which brings me to the next thing on a similar subject, and this is more of a revisiting of the whole Colin Kaepernick protest and celebrities, athletes, Sean King, and a lot of other folks weighing in. Speaking of Sean King, I'm gonna have a separate video on this dude. This is pretty interesting, but basically a lot of there's a huge thing from politicians, most notably a Supreme Court justice weighed in and then retracted her statement, what she said in regards to the American anthem protest. And it's kind of interesting, and it's worth pointing out that that military vets and the military in general do support the silent protests. Of course, the media ain't saying shit about that, and politicians ain't gonna say shit about that. They can't, because the racist that put him in office is telling them not to. But you look at the protests that at first started with the NFL, and then went to Major League Soccer, and is now being done by the NBA and the WNBA, and is now trickled down to college and now high school, middle school, etc., elementary, blah blah blah, and the reaction to that. You really got to see that shit to believe it. I mean, just stopping to think about it for a minute. I mean, this United fucking States of America, the First Amendment is freedom of speech. I mean, you're free to express yourself in any way that you want to, without fear of being prosecuted by law, as long as you're not saying, for example, I'm gonna kill this person, or all these people are all gonna be dead by tomorrow, or some dumb shit like that. That's a whole different thing. I mean, any kind of person that could actually send a high school or middle school student death threats for silently showing that they are not happy with certain things going on in this country. Just thinking about it, to have that kind of a nasty ass visceral reaction to someone that is silently making a statement that they are not happy with the way certain people are treating this country, to have that kind of reaction. And by the way, this has been happening to students that are white, as well as students that are black and otherwise as well. But anyone that could have that kind of a strong, violent reaction is exactly why they're doing what they're doing. And all I can really say to people that really don't get what the problem is or why they're doing it, that's exactly why they're doing it. You're exactly why they're doing it. And if you really want to legit know, don't be judgmental, just ask them why they're doing it. I mean, it's okay if you don't understand, But to have that sort of a fucking violent reaction just because you think that being disrespectful. I don't like the. I don't. I mean, I don't like. I don't. I really don't like to paraphrase Stephen A. Smith because there's a lot of things about his personality that I personally disagree with, in terms of how he approaches. But pretty much, and I had to close the door, some background noise. But pretty much, the one thing that he has said that I do agree with is anyone that would have that sort of emotional reaction to a silent protest, regardless of the context, it's very indicative of you as an individual, not them, but you. And I feel like the same people that are saying that these people that are taking a knee and all that and not standing and shit like that. I mean, I mean, like, who gives a fuck? Honestly, I mean, when you really think about it, I think back to that incident, and I think a couple times I mentioned this on a blog post, but I couldn't figure out a good way to articulate this on a blog. But there was a female high school basketball player who turned her back on the American flag during the Bush administration in protest of the war on the illegal war in the Middle East that America was involved in at the time. There was a lot of local outrage over that shit. I mean, the only reason I know about it is because it was posted online and then it got a lot of attention that way. But there were military vets that were there. They were pissed at her. I mean, I believe it was in Texas, but she pretty much turned her back and so pretty much like the placeholder said, I ended up having to take a small break from and cut the video in half more or less due to some unexpected company that just showed up at my house and I had to deal with that and all that everything else. One thing that I definitely do want to say before I continue where I left off is I get dehydrated very easily while I'm recording these videos. So just what you're seeing is water, and that's basically it. So yeah, just figure I might as well explain that so you folks are not wondering like what the hell is up with this dude and what the hell is he doing. So yeah. So basically, just to continue where I left off, I was talking about an incident that happened. I think it was in either 2006 or 2005. Can't remember exactly, but basically, it was a female high school basketball player who turned her back on the American flag during the national anthem before the game started. She got a lot of heat for that, and even though history proved that she was in the right to feel that way about it was she did it mostly to show pretty much to protest the war in the Middle East as well as to protest her displeasure of the president as well. I mean, so she was just exercising her freedom of right. That's basically what that was, and it's kind of interesting that unlike that back then, what was just merely an isolated incident was now a full blown national movement. It's kind of interesting. I mean, the student that did that in 10, 11 years ago was white, and most of the participants this time are African American. It's just really interesting and worth mentioning that. I mean, yes, a lot. I mean, yes, a lot of folks that have been doing that are also white, and they haven't been getting much attention. And to that, I must say, shame in the media, which is clearly cherry picking what they want to cover. I mean, it's pretty insulting and it's pretty embarrassing slash annoying, and also getting people riled up when ESPN, TNT, TBS, ABC, and Fox Sports all decide to focus on the pregame ceremony with the national anthem, which she didn't do before, in part because of the movement that Colin Kaepernick inadvertently started, but also to pretty much tell people these are the people that are kneeling and these are the people that you want to send your death threats to. That's basically what they're saying. And the fact that the media provides no context in terms of why they're doing this, which just pretty much confuses the shit out of people that don't even really get the political and social significance and why they're doing what they're doing, just simply exacerbates the issue. It makes and It's just pretty crazy. I mean, I already said that in the first part, what ended up being the first part of this video, that a lot of the kids have been getting death threats for the silent protest things. Well, of course, Colin Kaepernick announced last month that he gets death threats on a weekly basis, and now that it's been confirmed that the San Francisco 49ers are going to keep him as their starting quarterback, it's going to be a long season. But it's pretty interesting. I mean, I saw a pretty interesting documentary on ESPN. I think it was on Thursday on the Bennett brothers, Martin Bennett and Marcellus Bennett. One plays for the Marcellus plays for the plays for the New England Patriots, and Martin plays for the Seattle Seahawks. And one thing that I found very fascinating about those two guys is how candid and how unapologetic they are about their opinions on Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the NFL, other teams and other players and shit like that. And it was just pretty fascinating to watch, and it's pretty easy to understand why ESPN decided to do a second documentary on the Bennett brothers. But one of the things that I found very, very interesting, both about them and many other African American athletes, both in the NFL and in the NBA, as well as one outspoken player in Major League Baseball, is the sense that all they're really there for is to make money for the commissioner and nothing else. I mean, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver is affectionately referred to as the players' commissioner because of how closely he works with the NBA Players Association. I mean, some of you may have been aware of when the WNBA first started joining in with the silent protests. The WNBA fined several WNBA teams and players. They reversed that decision quick, fast, and in a hurry because of the social media's reaction to that. And the NBA was quick to say that players who choose to make a silent statement during the national anthem will not be penalized. So the WNBA was quick to backpedal on that, and not only did they reverse the punishments on players that had already been fined and suspended and whatever, they also refunded their money back, they also refunded the money, and they also issued an apology as well. Both of those last two things, of which was not really reported as much, but they did happen from what I've been told from multiple sources. But yeah, the whole protest thing, I think that's just Americans exercising their free right. And whether you agree with what they're doing, that's not the issue. That's not what should be focused on. What they are doing is calling attention to the actual problem, and that is how some people are treated differently. That is how some people in this country are treated differently, both not just by law enforcement, but also by the laws of our country, and on a much more deeper level, which will probably take a lot more time to figure out, but on a societal level as well. And it's really interesting. I'm thinking about America's reaction to the two shooting deaths that happened I think there was the two in September because there was two in August as well, but pretty much both those two sets of shootings that happened weeks apart from each other, that opened the eyes of a lot of white Americans in terms of, like, while on the one hand, while we can't never know what that feels like, we do get that there is something inherently fucked up about certain parts of American society. And I feel like that is exactly what Black Lives Matter and a lot of other social equality groups have been saying the whole time. I mean, it's like, there is a problem and that needs to be fixed. I mean, and it's not something that can just be solved by shouting and screaming. It takes a coming together of people of a lot of different backgrounds and groups to have, number one, have a dialogue, which, of course, is all corporate media and politicians want to do, but actually converting that talk into action. And that's the barrier that we are constantly being running up against. We need to remove the barrier and go around it and go to some actual change. That is what we are trying to do. I mean, if you're the kind of person that feels that, and I'm going to talk about this in a second blog, but Sean King put out a 25-point step-by-step outline on how you can institute effective police reform nationwide in this country. But if you're the kind of person that feels that, if you're the kind of person that feels that cops should not have to live, if you're the kind of person that feels that cops that don't live in the neighborhoods that they serve are will be unbiased, will not be. I'm stumbling on my words now, but if you're the kind of person that feels that law enforcement officers that do not live or are familiar with the neighborhoods in which they serve can be unbiased, that's a serious problem. I mean, speaking for Boston, it's a there are city ordinances and laws in place in which only teachers are allowed to live outside the city of Boston, which I personally have an issue with. With that particular mix-up, I think teachers should be required to live in the city of Boston, but that's another topic altogether. But all the officers that work in Boston are city of Boston residents, so basically they're from the neighborhood that they're now working in, more or less. I mean, it's just very interesting that, I mean, it's a big deal, but at the same time, it isn't a big deal in that sense. If you know the community that you're working in, um, people know you. They see you, it's like, oh, I don't know Officer Johnson. Me and him used to go to high school together, and it's like one thing that Boston Police Commissioner, well, I should say former Commissioner Ed Davis really brought back when he first became the commissioner of the Boston Police was community policing, where officers were taken out of the patrol cars and actually were walking around the streets, interacting with people and just getting to know people, getting to know the people, their constituents, more or less the people that they serve, getting to know neighborhoods. I'm like, and that actually played a big role in drastically reducing a lot of the officer involved shit that's been going on all over the country for the last 4 or 5 years now. I mean, shit like that works. I mean, people were pretty iffy about how Boston police reacted to first the marathon bombing when the city was shut down for almost a week, and then the unarmed suspect who happened to be Muslim who was brandishing a knife and was shot in Rosendale. I think it was a year and a half ago now. And now people are talking about the two officers that were shot in Boston last week because they refused to use deadly force. I mean, like, no one's saying being a cop is a pretty unflattering work, and it's a pretty stressful job in and of itself. I know a lot. I have a lot of good friends and family members that are officers, former, current, and former. So I'm one of the people that do get it. I mean, but at the same time, there's a lot of things that need to happen. There are a lot of things. There are a lot of the. I agree with those that have been saying the majority that are doing good are being mixed with those that are a problem. But the problem is that the police union, patrolmen's union, is the most powerful union in the country. It's pretty much speaking against the police is considered political suicide, more or less. And it's like, oh, who the fuck is wrong with you? Why would you say anything about the police? It's like, just because the majority are good doesn't excuse. The problem is because the majority are good. A lot of people on one side feel that you're not allowed to talk about them as a whole. As the sudden death saying goes, one bad apple literally spoils the bunch. So, like, there have literally been cases, mostly reported on social media, of course, of officers that have called out supervisors and colleagues who are corrupt as fuck, and they themselves were the ones that were either disciplined or fired or a combination of both. Of course, that being fucked up beyond any reason aside, FUBAR, it's like the whole quote unquote blue code of silence is just code talk for anyone who dares speak out and talk about anybody. Your ass is on the line. Your ass is out of here. We don't want you. We'll make your life live in hell. It's a lot of fucking intimidation that goes on in most police departments. I mean, you may have seen some of these now, unfortunately, former officers just straight up say that on YouTube videos and social media and shit like that. And if you hear background noise, there's a helicopter flying through my neighborhood. It's pretty random. I know it's a media helicopter, but it's still pretty interesting. But basically, it's like the so-called blue code of silence is basically code talk for if there's a problem, if there is a problem, but there is no problem. That's basically what that means. And it's pretty. Unfortunately, it is gonna take legislation to break that shit up once and for all. I mean, speaking about it, keeping a light on that is important, and it does help so that people are aware. But it looks like, unfortunately, since the patrolsman unions are being don't see a problem, we're gonna have to talk to our elected officials about correcting the issue once and for all. Now, it's as President Obama said in a round hall that he did on, I think it was ESPN last Monday or Tuesday, where he basically said, "You can't, the president, or any of the branches of federal government can't legislate or micromanage 88,000 police jurisdictions across the country. That's just an unrealistic expectation that a lot of people unfortunately do have." And while I do agree with that, I also feel that more people need to speak out about the issue. Even if you're in a neighborhood that doesn't have that problem, um, you'd be surprised how many cops actually do feel the same way, do sympathize, do feel that some of their colleagues are fucked up people in general that should not be allowed to wear a badge or anything like that. And because of the so-called blue line of silence and all that shit, they're not allowed to. They can't say anything out of fear of losing their jobs. And I'm like, it's pretty fucked up. I mean, you look at and what makes the shit even worse, just as sort of an added layer of intimidation. Some of the cops that were involved in the death of Freddie Gray and Sandra Bland, and I don't remember if it was Philando Castillo or. But anyway, some of the cops involved in some of these highly public police law enforcement killing on black people situations were later sort of a intimidation to their colleagues, publicly recognized for their heroism during those situations. Not in general, not as a career, but just specifically for those situations. That is a problem, and that's why that's where a lot of the outrage come from. And it's like basically basically how it is with a lot of these situations. If you're black or you're a minority, you're guilty until proven innocent, and even if you're proven innocent, you're still guilty. I mean, Donald Trump wasn't wrong when he said what he said. I mean, it was pretty fucked up what he said, that the Central Park rapist, the wrongly accused Central Park rapist was guilty all along. I mean, it's basically what it is. Unfortunately, I mean, that's basically what it is. Unfortunately, in too many situations, because you happen to look my complexion, or light, or slightly lighter, or darker, you're guilty until proven innocent. And it's a fucked up world that we live in, but it is what it is. I mean, man, I originally made it to make this a 40-minute video just about politics. I was like, I'm gonna just make this the whole for the rest of 2016, and we'll just leave it at that. I'm pretty sure someone might look back at this and said, well, never mind all the profanity and all the other stuff that he said. He was right on. If you had to sum up American politics in 2016, it's in this. It's in that one video that guy named Aurabolt did. It really is something else, and I'm starting to lose my voice again. But that's the long and short of it in regards to the whole Black Lives Matter thing. And I want to make sure I say this out loud, since I want to say that I didn't say this. The purpose of Injustice Boycott in Black Lives Matter is in reaction, in part because of the killings of unarmed African Americans in this country, but also the systemic racism and the systemic inequality that not just minorities, but also poor and middle class white Americans have been dealing with since forever, pretty much. And it's, to paraphrase Martin Luther King, one of the biggest lies that the haves have been saying to poor white people is at least you weren't born black. And it's like, basically it's basically divide and conquer 101. As long as we can get those all them fucking black people and them poor crackers to fight each other, we ain't got to worry about shit. That's basically the game. Get all the poor white people to fight with the fight with all, well, fight with the black community so that the attention's not on them. Well, this is we're in a different age than we were in 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years ago, where, and mostly in part thanks to the internet and social media, folks are paying attention a lot more to not the puppets, but the strings that are pulling the puppets, and by extension, the puppet masters themselves. So, yeah, I guess there really is a benefit to being in an era, being in the digital age, you could say. Folks are not just going by, folks, the current generation is not really into the whole following the script kind of shit that the previous generations have been to a T. I mean, it's folks are learning, folks are thinking for themselves, and that is what terrifies the establishment more than anything else. That's why they're pulling out all the stops with all these movies and specials and book to movies and all that kind of shit and all this pop culture, all the overemphasis on reality TV. They're doing everything they can think of to get people to not focus on them. I mean, I'm thinking of a theological equivalent to that, which I'm going to save for my faith and religion blog, but it's pretty interesting. To paraphrase Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 6, we're doing battle not with flesh and blood enemies, but with principalities, rulers, and ideals. That's basically what's going on in regards to um, those that speak out against the system, against the wrongs of this country and the wrong things that are wrong with this world, against those in power that will sacrifice everything to hold on to power. It's like I said in part one of this video, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's pretty pathetic when you think about it. I mean, it's just really just thinking about it. I mean, just looking at the theme song for the first season, the first 13 episodes of Attack on Titan. Parts of that theme song is to the effect of, on the one hand, it's basically saying, on the one hand, you could become a sheep and live in a sense of false security, or you can choose to discard all that stuff, and instead of just accepting the status quo and all that other shit, you can actually. It's basically a choice to either live a lie or live in the harsh reality, and people are choosing to confront reality. I mean, it's kind of interesting where pretty much fiction imitates life. Not just Attack on Titan, but also Persona 4 and a couple of other interesting. It's pretty interesting how. I mean, pop culture and all that stuff is shaped by the around things that are happening at the time. I mean, music is a pretty big is that's the thing that I'm thinking of at the same time. I mean, a lot of people were pretty outraged and pretty disgusted and pretty like, what the fuck was up with NWA and 50 Cent and Dr. Dre and all these and Tupac, Biggie Smalls, and all these people rapping about this, that, and all this other kind of shit during the 80s and 90s. Well, just looking past all the shit about violence and drugs and all the other shit they used to do before they got into music and all that other shit. Um, if you really pay attention to what they're actually saying, and they're talking about personal experiences that they have. It's basically they're telling a story, and this is something that a lot of I'll call them so-called rap purists a little bit have been bitching about since the late '90s, where all people really have been really rapping about since well most rappers have been really saying since the late '90s has been talking about sex, money, how much sex they have, how many guns they have, how much money they have, who they have in beef with, baby mama drama, dumb shit like that. I'm like, that's basically all you've been hearing about. I mean, rap going mainstream was pretty much a double-edged sword. I mean, Well, there was a lot of music from 1990, I think 1989 to 2016 that I'm okay with. But the one thing that I do agree with, one of the few things I agree with a lot of the purists is we need to go. If you're into music, rap, we need to go. Rap needs to be taken back to its roots. And while I disagree with Ice-T in terms of how that should be done, one thing that I do agree with is more rappers, artists, and musicians in general. Really, they need to start talking about the shit that's going on right now. I mean, that's basically why Tupac and Biggie were killed. That's basically why a lot of as soon as you start talking about politics and shit that's going on, that's when people get pissed off at you. That's when you know you're saying something right. When people are so pissed off at you that they literally just calling you and even sending you and your family death threats, then you know you're onto something. That's basically what it is. I mean, while it is true that, while it is true that both a lot of people have said that Biggie and Tupac basically foretold their own deaths, well, so did Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, and a lot of the folks that are pushing up daisies right now. I mean, and then we find out later on historically they were right on. A lot of the things that they said were in fact true. NWA talked about mass incarceration. Tupac and Biggie talked about the war on drugs and the conspiracy of this government to basically have black people killing each other in the city so that the police can come around and come in and just be portrayed as the heroes and shit like that. It's basically Wild Wild West created by a society of people that feel like, what the hell, whatnot. They're not human. They're just black people. That's all. They don't. No one gives a fuck about them. They're just niggas, right? And then once people start to educate themselves and start speaking out against the obvious injustice, then it's like, oh shit, they onto us now. We better watch out. We better put them down. It's like that's basically what it is. And the one thing that I am pretty confident, one thing historically that has also been shown is during each era, during each of these time periods, there will always be someone or a group of people that will come up and try to bring and shines and just shed a little bit of truth on what's really going on. I mean, NWA and a lot of the folks took that role on during the 80s. During the 90s, you had Tupac and Biggie, and I'm just speaking in terms of rap music. Then 50 Cent, no, not a 50 Cent. You had I don't want to say Jay-Z and Nas because he was more focused on making money than anything else. They don't give a fuck about anybody. Just being real. That's basically, they don't give a fuck about anybody. Just really thinking about people that come up and actually talk about the actual real stuff instead of just it's to the music industries and by extension the government's advantage for rappers to not talk about the real fucking issues in this country, because then the people will finally figure out, wait a minute, we don't have to settle. We do deserve to be treated like people. We are more than what's being portrayed on BET, MTV, and all these other reality TV shows. We are much more than that. All the. It's like I said in my mass media, in my media video. Like I'm saying, I'm refraining again. Them are all distractions. That's the whole point of all that TV and shit. Those are all distractions to get you to not focus on the underlying issues. I'm not saying people don't have. I'm not saying people can't be entertained or can't have fun or anything like that. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is, don't get so caught up in the whole escapism shit. And this is coming from someone that played World of Warcraft for a huge chunk of the last 6, 7 years, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. But don't get so caught up in the distraction that you forget about that. That you forget that it's not more than that. It's just basically a distraction. And unfortunately, that's been the problem with most of this country. A lot of people tell me the way I'm able to explain things, I'm able to cut out a lot of the fucking jargon and side talk and all the other technical shit and just get right straight to the point. I'm like, if it's just what I do. a lot of it has to deal with my past work working in education for 10 years, both in BPS and in city year. But another part of it is just it's what I do. That's basically. I know there's at least 10 people that really get that catchphrase that I just said. That's what I do. That's basically what I do. I mean, yeah, this video this is now the longest video I've ever recorded on YouTube. So yes, but basically this is basically I'm gonna just say this is gonna be the only video I'm gonna record on politics for the 2016. It's just figure might as well get out the way. I mean, I already know who the next president is gonna be, so you ain't gonna see any sort of analytical videos unless something major happens, which I doubt. I mean, it's like I said in a video I uploaded, in another video that I uploaded, that I'm dealing with some personal shit in my life. So if you really, I really have to, I'm just pretty much saying pretty much on my knees without getting on the floor because that'd be off camera. If you're able to, please check out my GoFundMe campaign. I'm looking to raise $12,500. So any amount you can give would be greatly appreciated in that sense. I mean, it's just something. It's just pretty interesting. It's just so much going on in the world these days. I mean, as much as it sucks, and as much as it's horrible enough for people to not want to deal with it, unfortunately, it is our reality. And yeah, I want to say that I'm one of those people that can cut through all that shit and not get sucked in. I mean, honestly, I've done a pretty decent job resisting the urge to really. I mean, I shut down my Facebook account over the summer because I realized after much of the year that I was really allowed myself to get really worked up, and was like, all right, I need to cut this shit out. So basically, for those that didn't read my Facebook WordPress blog on the subject, that and the fact that I wasn't really getting much out of using Facebook anyway are the two main reasons that I deactivated my Facebook account. So yeah, that's pretty much that. I'm losing my voice again, and I'm definitely gonna have to take a break. I mean, I have another video that I'm gonna try to record tonight. I think I'll say it's gonna be on both Sean King and Stephen A. Smith. Two guys that I have been checking that I've been following. One via social media, and the other is an ESPN journalist. Who are both very opinionated and very passionate about the things that they talk about. So yeah, it should be pretty interesting. That's the next video I'm going to record, but it may not be the next video I upload. So I just got to put that out there so that you're not expecting that to be the very next video that I upload. I mean, I have, I'd say about 6, 7, 8 videos that I've recorded throughout this year that I just never uploaded because they all need editing, and including this one. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. I mean, well, all I can say is my webcam's getting a pretty good workout. Whew. Okay, I'm gonna stop there since I've pretty much ad-libbed for like the last, let's say, 3.5 minutes now. So basically, unless you guys absolutely do want me to, this will probably be the only political video politically motivated video that I did do for the year 2016. I mean, if you want to know what I think about Donald Trump, see my WordPress blog. If you want to know what I think about Hillary Clinton, see my WordPress blog. I'm voting third party. I'm not a Democrat anymore. I made that official a while back. So yeah. I mean, anyway, that's all I got to say about that. Good night, America. I'll see you guys in another video or another WordPress blog post. And just stay healthy and keeping it real.